Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. I love the enthusiasm. We're super pumped to talk digital gov. Hi. So good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Anna Pettygen. I am the Vice President of Events for Government Executive Media Group, and I'm so excited to have you all here. I'm excited to have everyone on our live stream, so thank you so much for joining us. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's event, Digital Government Unleashed, produced by Route 50 and NextGov, our two sister publications. Sorry, I get a little nervous right before I do this. I'll get better as we go. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are the public sector division of Atlantic Media. Route 50 focuses on state and local government, and NextGov focuses on federal technology. This morning, you're going to hear from government leaders who are not only transforming the way services are designed and delivered, but also reimagining. I'm really sorry, this is embarrassing. Thank you, I appreciate it. I promise I've done this before, but it's been a little while. Throughout the morning, I encourage you to share your thoughts using our hashtag DigitalGov. And finally, I want to thank our underwriter, Adobe, for their support of this program. We're so happy to have you on board as a partner, and we really appreciate it. Without further ado, I'm going to welcome up our first panel, and I'll have Frank introduce our speakers. Sorry.
Howdy, howdy. How's everyone doing today?
That's all right, but the short guy. Not that
All right, let's mic check. We're good?
I think so.
I think we're good. Okay, so I'm Frank Conkle. I run NextGov. We're based in DC. We cover the federal government. Sometimes we matriculate over the state and local side, but this is a really interesting time. On the federal side, you have a huge digital transformation underway. It goes back 4 to 6 years. Under the Obama administration, there was a big push to improve customer experience at the federal level. A lot of the agencies that we're familiar with, Social Security, IRS, et cetera. On the tech side of that, some of these agencies are using technology that was built in the 60s. In fact, the IRS, if any of you guys are filing your taxes like I did about 2 days ago, right before I come down here, that system was coded in 1958, and it still is processing all individual tax returns, which is pretty crazy. Last year, there was a crash on tax day, and it was actually that system from the Kennedy era that crashed. So you get the tie-in here. It's a big deal. I want to introduce our speakers, Michael Sherwood, Max Everett, in order. I'm going to let them talk a little bit about what they do here, and then we'll get into some conversation. And then I want to open up to Q&A at some point later. And so think of creative questions to bombard these guys with. Go ahead.
So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Las Vegas. Hope you're having a great time here. Hope you are enjoying yourself, and I hope you win lots of money and then re-spend it in the economy locally. I'd appreciate that. But I'm the Director of Technology and Innovation for the City of Las Vegas, so I run basically the day-to-day computer operations as well as our smart, or what I consider connected community services for the City of Las Vegas.
I'm Max Everett. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the Department of Energy. So I've been in and out of government, contracting, all that sort of stuff, but DOE is, if you're not aware, is about $30 billion department. We do everything from design nuclear weapons to, in fact, we've got a nice facility out here in the desert a little ways away, all the way to open science with researchers around the world, and then a whole variety of sort of other things within the department that environmental work, energy resilience work, things like that. So we've got a very broad, diverse set of tasks our department does.
All right, so we'll start really basic. We've heard a lot at this conference about digital transformation. What does that actually mean for each of you? And then we'll tie into the customer experience component that I think is really important for service delivery and citizens.
Sure. So transformation for the City of Las Vegas and IT in general is more IT shifting from what we call a break and fix or keep the lights on type mentality to more going to knowledge-based work, where we're actually providing data and results to departments so they can make decisions based on actionable information. We're really slowly shifting. I mean, most of you in the audience, I'm sure, have an iPhone or some kind of mobile device. I doubt that you go to your IT department, or at least I hope you don't, have to go to your IT department every day to get it configured or fixed. That was really the traditional role of IT, was more to help you. When I started in the field, you know, that Control P, I used to go and help people print because they couldn't figure out how to print. I'm dating myself a little bit. But you know, that role of IT, how it was keeping the business going, was the past. What we look at today is not only IT providing technology solutions and innovation for a city, but more being helpful now in economic development, as well as in workforce development. I think we'll touch on a little bit more, but it gives you general ideas that really IT roles is shifting, in my view, and it's more my job now as a leader to empower my staff to start making that transition from being a break and fix type shop to more forward-thinking, innovative things. And it comes down to a principle of business. Do you want to be playing defense like a Kodak and not innovating your product or Blockbuster, or do you want to be on the forefront as a disruptor? Being the one that's driving your organization, whether it be a government organization or a private organization, driving it forward with new revenue, new services. That's where I want to be. I want to be at the forefront of really changing the economy of not only the department, not only the city, but everybody that enjoys our city here as well. So, and I think technology plays a huge role in that transformation.
I enjoyed your city a lot last night until very early this morning.
Keep enjoying, keep enjoying.
Max.
So I would really, at the Department of Energy, I think it's that same picture, right? I came up in, you know, IT operations. We were just, you know, again, I like to keep the lights on. We just made email work and that kind of stuff. And so, for example, I just named our first chief data officer at the department. And if you understand what the Department of Energy does, we've got these 17 national labs. We got people doing research on everything. You know, we're the largest federal funder of basic science, which most people don't know. Think about the amount of data that we create, valuable data for citizens, for companies, for the academic community, and yet we're not getting that data out to anybody, right? We don't even know where all the data is. We haven't done anything to identify and prioritize what's valuable, and then have a strategy to actually get that out to people. And so part of that is that it's that culture change and the expectation change that, you know, we're not just there to make sure email works or that you can go browse the web. We are the method to getting that data out to all these different stakeholders we have. Again, and some of them even for us are global, but certainly in the US, you know, our labs have done unbelievable things over the decades, some of which is really transitioned out into commercial products you see every day. But there's a lot still sitting there that could probably be even more valuable to the economy and to business and other folks in the US that we simply haven't gotten it out. We're not telling our message very well. And so that's one of those things we're looking at is, you know, how do we have that data-centric model where we're actually understanding where all that data is and then working to find ways, you know, again, not just to sort of dump it out, but to actually present it out in a findable manner. That's one of the mistakes I've seen in government is everybody wants to be open with data and we just sort of take stuff and dump it out there. And then maybe if you're like a really good sort of digital archaeologist, you can dig through and find something of value, which is silly. We actually we should know what we have, and we should be presenting the most valuable data to the kind of people who need it. And there are places in government, especially the last few years, that have been much better at this. So, you know, we don't have to figure it out ourselves. It's just working with partners, you know, whether they're private sector partners or people in the government who've done it, and we can be doing it a lot better, and then you get a bang for your buck as a taxpayer.
Right. I want to hit on one of the points you mentioned too about sort of IT being the backbone of organizations. I think it's important to note that at the federal level, it's around 80% of money spent on operating old systems, kind of like you said, keeping the lights on. And that's something that is, under President Obama and now President Trump, that's beginning to change. There's been laws written to sort of help transition that, maybe flip it on its head. All right, so we got a pretty good dive on the what you guys do. I want to see where this digital transformation intersects with customers. I think at the federal level, it's one of the most important things there is because these are systems we have to deal with every day. It's not like an Amazon or any other private sector company. We don't have choice. We have to deal with Treasury Department. We have to deal with Social Security for our entire duration of our lives. So I want to see how you guys, who your customers are, how you are changing the way that you think and interact with them using technology. Either of you, and Mike, make sure you let me come back to the way that you guys are releasing your data out because you got a cool use case. Don't let me forget. Anyway, whoever wants to take that first.
You want to go? Sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to take your thunder. So obviously all of you are great customers of Las Vegas, and I hope you continue to be that great customer. Thank you. Yes. Clap more, spend more. But what it comes down to is what society wants. Most of you want the same type of services that you're currently expecting that you get today through an Amazon, through your dealings with Uber. It's kind of that, I call it the Burger King society. I want it my way and I want it now. And so government needs to react to that. While City Hall is open, and you're more than welcome to come down to City Hall anytime you wish while we're open, shouldn't government be open 24 hours a day? If you're home at 1 in the morning and want to pay a bill, shouldn't you be able to pay a bill? So transformation for government needs to go beyond that. Because when you work with the city, it's like working with 24 different departments. If you want to pay parking, it's one user account, log in, go do that. You want to sign up for a recreation program, it's another account. What we're doing now is doing just what Amazon does. When you log into Amazon, you don't log into Whole Foods and then log out and log into electronics. It's one login, all services. So really what one of the use cases we're doing is one unified login, all city services. I don't want to call it the shopping cart, but that's the best analogy I can give you. You go into your government, you interact. You go ahead and do your child's baseball camp, you get yoga for yourself, you go ahead and pay your parking ticket, and you pay your other bills and services, and then government interacts with you. When a road's closed, you have a government app that tells you the road is closed, just like a Waze. That's what we're using, is using all the data we have and unlocking it internally and providing services to citizens. When you come to Las Vegas, the last thing I want you to worry about is, how do I move around? You don't know that transportation is a separate entity than city government. What we want to do is make a seamless transformation across the entire organization, really bringing that kind of customer service look and feel that you want, because at the end of the day, let's really talk about facts for municipal government. Government basically survives on property tax revenues. That's how most cities operate. Most of their money comes from. So from a technology perspective, how do I play into that scenario? What I do is create the best amenities. All of you live somewhere, and you should be living here. But besides that, you live somewhere because it's a safe community, because it's got good schools in the area. It has for my case, great restaurants or great other amenities that you want. So why is government not using technology to unleash the power it has to build amenities here in our region that attract new people into our society? New workers, new economy, new operations, new revenue means a new community and a thriving community that's going to be here not just today, but well into the future.
And Max, these efforts for you are a little bit nascent, right? You're starting out.
They are, and so let me take a step back. So I have two hats in my role, CIO. I've got what I'll call my internal customers, right? So we have about 15,000 federal employees spread over 97 sites in, I think, 37 states. Including our national labs, other facilities. So 15,000, give or take, federal employees, another 100,000 contractors, right? All of our national labs they're contract workers. So we actually pay somebody to run these labs for us. So we have what people politely refer to as a federated department. I call it more confederated, probably a little closer to a mafia family sometimes the way it runs. And so I've got a huge challenge there of sort of getting everybody on the same page. And in some cases, they don't need to be on the same page. They've got very different missions, and that's okay. But at a certain point, again, when we're talking about data, deconflicting, understanding what's going on, managing cybersecurity, we've got to have at least some level of, those are all my customers in a way. I've got to give them certain central services and do those well. And so that's one of those things we're looking at. And it goes back to what you said, the expectation, right, when our labs are trying to recruit the best and brightest and get new PhDs, my joke when I walked in the department was, I walked in, they had a lot of older equipment. You'd walk around and see somebody new started on board. You'd see a laptop on their desk, and there'd be a bunch of smudges because they're all used to touchscreen, right? So they get this kind of older laptop, and they're all poking it because they expect a touchscreen. That's my problem is the workforce of every age, right? My dad spends more time on his iPad than I do, but people of every age now expect that. They expect an Amazon experience. They expect a touchscreen. They expect an iPad experience. And if we can't give that to them, they're going to go to someone else in the private sector or somewhere else that provides that. So that internal driver of what I'll call my internal customers then has to flow outward, right? Because if the folks that work in my department don't expect that sort of environment, that sort of interaction, how can I expect them then to provide that out to the citizens and the other stakeholders we have? So we're doing a little internal stuff first. And again, we're a unique department because we have a lot of different stakeholders, right? IRS, National Parks. We have some departments that are they're closer to a city. They're very customer, very taxpayer focused. We have a lot of different sort of segmented stakeholders, which makes it a little more challenging, but the expectation should be the same. I don't expect any of you to know, I barely know how the Department of Energy is structured. I don't expect you to know that. I expect you to be able to come and find things and find them quickly. You shouldn't need to know the organization chart, who's in charge or anything else. You should just be able to go and find the things we have that belong to you as taxpayers. And so that's part of that change we're trying to make. And again, we're seeing it across government. I think that some of our more citizen-focused departments have done a better job, as they should have, right? They're on the front lines of working with all of you. But again, there's departments like ours that can add incredible value if we think this way. And we're right on the front end of doing that.
And just to put it into context, if you look at the last few years historically, the federal government as a whole is the worst agency in providing customer experience. It always falls below the Comcast. Have you ever waited 4 hours for a Comcast representative to talk with you? The government does worse than them in these performances, which is kind of sad. Sad exclamation point. So one of the drivers you said is sort of getting a better experience that we're used to. There's also some other drivers that are starting out now too. We see the President's management agenda made customer experience a pinnacle or a pillar of that going back a couple of years. We even see Congress doing something on this front. Congress isn't known for doing a lot lately, but in technology and providing better citizen service delivery, they are a little bit. Max, going back to you, the IDEA Act that passed recently, that's something that you as a federal agency have to implement, and there are some things you have to do with that. Tell us a little bit about how that's affecting your job.
Sure. So the 21st Century IDEA Act, if you're not familiar, it's a focus from Congress, and you're right. The great thing about technology is it's probably the only bipartisan issue left in D.C. So everybody on both sides is in favor of it. And so the 21st Century IDEA Act is, again, it's focused on this piece of moving away from the model of keeping the lights on, and the model that IT is actually something that can transform how we provide government services, right? And it's focused in some different areas in terms of how we can make things more accessible, how we can put data out, but it's also really about the cultural change. Look, and I'll tell you, in DC, there's lots of times Congress passes laws, and yet we somehow manage not to carry them out in departments. We have a long, unfortunate history of that. And so the law itself doesn't guarantee anything. We actually have to get off our rears and go do it. Now, the good news is I've been in DC for 18 years as a Fed, as a contractor, and I do have to say the last couple of years, really the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've never seen as much focus from Congress, focus from multiple administrations, and focus from the actual technical people to actually do this and get it done, to actually provide value. It is really starting to see a culture change, which I think is always, it's more important than the law. It's more important than anything, frankly, is people have to buy in and do it. And we're really starting to see it. And having those laws helps. One, because it gives accountability. I'm a big believer in accountability because I'm somebody who's a procrastinator. So I need accountability or I'm not going to get things done. And funny, the government seems a lot like me in that. And so having laws like that actually is a great help because it really gives us something to measure progress by, and it sort of signals an intent. And then the reality is, for the folks who want to go maybe get a bigger budget to get more done, they have a roadmap now. If I'm accomplishing these tasks, if I'm following the law, I'm a lot more likely to have a friendly audience to try and get the budget I need to get everything done. So it really is helping to start push things along. And again, I think it represents some of the culture change that's happening. But it's very welcome, I think, by every CIO I've talked to.
And just to button it up, looking through what I wrote down in my notes yesterday, you have to, by the year's end, you have to come up with a list of websites and digital services that you need to modernize, and then an associated estimated cost with that by the year's end, and that will help you get a better lay of the land for what you got to fix, what you don't, that sort of thing. Let's talk about other drivers. Now, I wouldn't know this from personal experience, but I've been told that there are automated robot bartenders in this town.
Right here.
Right here.
Right here.
I wouldn't know from personal experience, but
I'll take you over later.
this is just one way that workforce changes and technology are coming at this intersection. How are you at the city level beginning to deal with this very real issue?
So let's look at it in real perspective. The Uber economy, as I refer it to, is a very real thing. And let's just look at Las Vegas while you're here and walk around. Maybe this gives you some things to think about. Las Vegas has roughly 2.5 million people that reside throughout the entire region of Southern Nevada. Majority of those individuals work in the service industry. If you think of the service industry, it's bartending, it's cab driving, it's food servers, food preparation, all of those type of jobs. If you start looking around, go to LA, there's a product called Flippy, it flips burgers. Robotic type technology and automation. We have Tipsy, which is I believe in this location here, that is an automated bartending service. If you didn't know, last year Las Vegas was the first city in the United States to launch an autonomous vehicle in mixed flow traffic. It had a safety driver in there, but it served over 40,000 people successfully throughout the 1-year trial period. What is that part of society going to do when disruption comes? And it's something that's not just a city issue, it affects all of you where you live as well. And that's really where government and community and private organizations need to step up and start looking at workforce development. You have a lot of people, let's just take a bartender in this town that makes $80,000 to $100,000 a year and has a high school education. What happens to that individual when robotic bartending, even if it only disrupts 10% of the workforce, what are they going to do for a job? What are they going to do for society? What will happen is, and at least in mine, this is a personal opinion, is that if you don't address this at a community level, as a society, you're going to have higher crime. People are going to be unemployed. What are they going to do? And so it's really, what I try to do currently is to really focus on educating the population, providing opportunities for people to get involved in technology. We're very technology starved when we look at opportunity. People come in and go out. As soon as they get a better job for $5,000 or $6,000 more dollars, they go to another organization. And so it's very difficult to retain technology talent, and it shouldn't be that way. We should have an ample amount of technology workers ready to step in, ready to move us forward as a society and as a organization. And so it really starts coming down to talking about automation, talking about AI, not just from a technology sense, but how it's going to disrupt. Do we want to wait until autonomous vehicles completely take over and all the people that are surviving on Uber and Lyft have nowhere else to go in the shared economy? So it's really those type of things that worry me most about the future and how technology is going to play that role and how government is going to help be part of that.
And what are some of the early steps you're taking in starting these conversations with mayors and other officials that have to weigh in on these decisions?
So I'm very fortunate to work for a great city with a great city council and a great mayor who embrace technology, who allow us to have an innovation district downtown where we're testing technology, we're seeing how it operates, we can get ahead of the curve about how some of these impacts go and what we can do to start working with the society and the community as a whole. But not just great leadership, it's the great opportunity and the great culture of Las Vegas in general, which is an innovative culture. We take brand new buildings or buildings that are 4 or 5 years old, blow them up and rebuild them. So the culture is very creative, it's constantly evolving. But I think for all of us, it goes back down to the root of what I discussed before. Do you want to live in a city that has dirt roads and an open-faced sewer system? Or do you want to live in a city that's modern, that has the ability, that has the technology to move people from point A to B or provide the services you want? And so it's really about Las Vegas setting the tone for being the city of the future, not just being known for what all of you know it for, which is great conventions, great food, great innovation and entertainment, but a place for business, a place to live, and a place to play.
Max, this isn't just an issue at the state and local level. This is definitely an issue at the federal level, too. We've reported on OPM data, Office of Personnel Management, for those of you who don't know, at the sort of tech divide in talent. So the government, on average, employs approximately 6 to 7 IT workers over the age of 60 for every one under the age of 30. In some large departments, like the Department of Veteran Affairs, for example, that actually it's 20-to-1 ratio. So you have 20 60 and older for every one under the age of 30. So it's a huge thing that is going to have to be addressed in the coming years. How do you see that challenge, and how are you starting to address it?
So we've been looking, certainly the federal government, one of those focus areas on things like AI and robotics. And one of the concepts we've talked about is essentially moving people from low-value work to high-value work. Ones where they can engage their minds more and do those things. I think that's frankly a part of it. So I love the idea of, the innovation zones where people interact with technology. I mean, the fundamental piece, technology is here to serve us. We're not here to serve technology. And so if we're starting with that and understanding how can those things add to and supplement and help us with our lives, with our work and things, has to be part of that starting point. And our department through our labs has done years and even in many cases decades of work when it comes to artificial intelligence and some of those things that we're all looking at. And so part of it is understanding how should those interact with people. When you talk about the workforce and some of those changes, and again, it's not even just the younger generation, but there's a lot of folks in mid-career who this is impacting right now, and understanding how we transition those folks into different jobs, because many of them have, as I look at our department, many of them have a mission understanding that's irreplaceable. They have knowledge of our mission, our stakeholders that bring value. So how do we actually make it easier for them to work with technology? How do we make it more like consumer technology? How do we have enhancements like machine learning and AI that make it easier for them to use the capabilities they have? You mentioned, and I'll admit a little bias here, so I waited tables through college and law school, back when you could actually still pay for school just waiting tables. And I'll be honest, I literally sometimes like to find out when I'm interviewing people if they ever waited tables before. Because for me, that was people who I knew from having done that, and I wasn't great at it, but I understood that those were people who understood how to juggle priorities, how to do customer service, how to look somebody in the eye, how to read a person, read a situation. Those are actually invaluable capabilities. Again, if you understand that technology is for people, whatever technology skill you have, you still have to be able to interact with people, or you're not going to deliver value. And so we still need people with all of those sort of skill sets. And in fact, I'd argue, as the machines get better at doing the stuff they do. So I heard a guy last summer, a British guy, so it was a much better accent than mine, but he talked about the idea that machines are fast, accurate, and stupid. And people are slow, sloppy, but clever, right? And his idea was machines can do incredible things when we tell them what to do. The second you have even now with AI and machine learning, the second there's a variation, they have problems, right? People probably not as good as that, but man, are people clever, right? I have to fight my users every day because they're very clever at beating some of the cybersecurity controls I put around them and other things. And so how do we take that and allow people to be in situations where they can use that, what they do as humans, creativity and things like that? How do we find ways to apply that in their interactions with technology, right? We can't go the Luddite route of we're just going to get rid of machines. It's not going to work. So we need to have more of the situations and opportunities where people can apply those other skills in these technical environments and help bring value to people.
All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to let you guys ask some questions. So, who has the first one? Got one right over here. Wait for the mic, though. Wait, coming. Now you can go.
Thank you. Okay, just got feedback. So on the HR question, both for the city and for the federal government, the Department of Defense has a service called DDS that they've just put out a requisition on FedBizOp saying, we want industry help. We're going to try to pull in industry sectors, commercial sectors to help government because there is a huge shortage in personnel, both for cyber and for AI. We're seeing that also at the state level as well because everybody's pulling from the same talent pool. Silicon Valley's pulling. Defense contractors are pulling. Does DOE have anything like that they're interested in doing as a separate agency? And is the city of Las Vegas in particular, because I just relocated here from Texas to do AI work specifically because of everything that's being offered here. You've got major trunk lines, you've got major data centers. This is sort of the place to be for this innovation.
I'll say real quickly, yeah, federal government hiring is a challenge, right? It's a cost challenge. We can pay what in other places would be a great salary, but our cost of living is so high now in the DC area that it's, a lot of folks I know who are there, they live 30, 40 miles outside of DC to afford, housing and things like that. So that's an immense challenge. Giving them meaningful work, right? To get someone like you, even if I could pay you enough and attract you to come, I've got to have you in a place where, my experience with technical people is they like challenges, they like to accomplish things, right? So when you think about the 21st Century Idea Act and other things like that, we're thinking not just, hey, we want to deliver stuff. We have to do that if we're going to get the best talent to want to come and work in government. We've had some folks who've come in just to serve, and that's great. But it's hard for them to stick it out in the long term if we don't have our government structured in a way where they can accomplish things, where they can see the results and output of their work, right? It doesn't matter how much you pay them. At a certain point, it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, no matter how much you're getting paid, if you're miserable, if you don't like your job, if you're not seeing value as a person. That's actually, honestly, probably one of our biggest problems on the government HR side. So we are looking at things, certainly starting at the lower level, trying to do more things with internships, with fellowships, every route we can, transitioning veterans in. We're part of a program now that I think 6 or 7 agencies have done to start transitioning veterans who have some key skills into government. But we're also trying to look at, we're actually participating in a public-private partnership next year. So private sector groups are working with public to bring in some people right out of college. They're going to spend at least 2 years in government. Now, some of them are going to move on to private sector, and that's great. But some of them are going to come in, and if we've structured the right way, if we've made it meaningful, if they see value in their service, we got a chance to keep them on, and the private sector folks are going to help us do that. They're going to help us with the leadership piece. And then, frankly, I expect we're going to learn a lot, and we're going to be pushed to be able to do the same cultural type of things, the same job things that you would see in some of the cutting-edge private sector companies. That's how we're going to bring people in. And I don't pretend that's easy, because it's not.
And just to add to your point, so she asked about the Defense Digital Service, just sort of a team that was a team of private sector outsiders that were brought into government, hired up to sort of fix these problems across the Defense Department. They've hosted hackathons. They've actually brought hackers into the Pentagon to test military systems, things like that. There's a civilian offshoot called the Digital Service, U.S. Digital Service, that is the same premise, although instead of just being a singular agency, they send their folks who come into the public sector around to different agencies, and then they tackle problems. So there's examples that the Department of Veterans Affairs, for example, where they have revamped their website. They've taken focus groups and data, figured out what vets actually need to do when they're on the website. They actually had over 1,000 websites at one point. Now they have one singular site for people to visit. Things like that are sort of making an impact, but they're only a few years in. And they also have to get funding from Congress every few years, which sometimes is problematic. Do we have any other questions yet? We got right here in the front. Just wait for the mic because of the live stream.
Hi, Ted Williams from Nashville. So the chicken and waffles was on point for breakfast this morning, but I had a question for Michael. Specifically, just real quick, one of the grand visions for the state government of Tennessee is to have a citizen portal. So did you guys run into any kind of adoption, like barriers for citizens that kind of have that view of government, like, oh, I don't want to give them my information, even though they already have it, that kind of thing? And how did you address that?
So the question is about a digital portal or that user interface that people interact with government with. Are we perfect at it? No. Are they embracing it as a whole? No. People are very comfortable in this room sharing what they're eating and sharing what they're doing on Facebook and Instagram, but yet when they want to trust any municipal government or anything, there's always that step back. But it takes time. Trust takes time. Change takes time. But what we've been doing is trying to create an ecosystem. So not only are we rolling out this unified identity management system, which is very similar to your banking, just like everything else in the mainstream, we're also building an ecosystem of products, which we're calling Go Vegas. On play of words, it's Gov, G-O-V, and then Vegas. But we offer streaming media services on Apple TV. We offer Alexa applications. We're going to then tie all that together under one single user authentication. In the future, to give you an idea of where we're going with this, is imagine you're based in Boston, but you have a niece or nephew or someone playing in a softball league here in Las Vegas. The goal would be is that you'll get a PIN code just like you would to watch CNBC or CNN. If you're authorized to do it, you would get a PIN code, and you'd be able to watch your niece or grandson hit that first home run. When you start building services, people start being more comfortable with providing information. And we're looking for a base level of information just to make sure we know who you are. We're not going real deep with a bunch of information, and it's an opt-in service. You don't if you want to go to every website individually and pay your bills, that is fine. But that's not what the majority of the mainstream market is going to want in the future.
We're like 30 seconds over, but I forgot, and I was going to have you remind me. There's something that you guys are doing with Alexa and open data and just having people be able to get data easier. Can you just 30 seconds, explain
30
that quick.
seconds. So in 30 seconds, we have an open data portal. It's called opendata.lasvegasnevada.gov, where we have roughly over 450 open data sources, restaurant grades, all types of data sources. We've linked that up to the community, and we've created a couple Alexa apps to let the community see how they work. And now we're encouraging the community and third-party companies to use our data and develop their own applications. Look, I'm not an application, I was many years ago, but the languages I know are no longer in service, basically. But the goal is connecting with the community. Let private industry, let the community build applications. And for the young lady, real quick about jobs, I got like 30 seconds, 15. We're taking the offensive.
It's cool, bro. I'm running this, so we're good.
All right, thank you, man. It's my town, I'll let you stay. But we're taking the offensive. We're working with the community directly. We can't wait for job programs and other things to happen. So we're reaching out to community. We're doing internships. We're working with local programs locally, Tech Impact. We're trying to do exciting innovations, not just about the government creating technology. It's about getting the community excited about technology and hopefully bringing people into the caveat. We have a great community base here of citizens that are active and ready to go, that want to participate. It's my job now to provide them opportunities, not just internships, but opportunities to interface with our data, opportunities to be creative, opportunities for them to draw their own conclusions in life and services. And so my role is to provide them that foundation and then work with everybody we possibly can to keep people excited about being in Las Vegas.
Great. Well, hey, thank our panelists for doing this. I learned a lot.